man, I'm so excited.
Me too. I've been looking forward to this all week, honestly.
I was so excited to do this because I had to when I messaged you, I was so nervous too.
Why? Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna give you a proper intro, so because a lot of people probably have no idea who this is or what's going on, how we know each other. And I was thinking back about how long you and I have known each other. So everybody, this is my very good friend Nicole. I've known Nicole since we were 12, 13, babies.
God bless us. Right. We were the only ethnic looking ones in that area, I swear. Because we didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, we were we just stuck out like sore thumbs.
Oh my God. And I remember that our middle school era, everyone was so into straightening their hair till it was burnt. I remember that. So you and I would just be sitting there
we're trying so hard. We're
the blue eyeshadow. Oh my gosh.
I still do that, can't lie.
A lot of the main conversations in our podcast, because me, my sister, and Jason, we're all in different stages of our life, so we always share and talk about that. But I always remember your story because I don't know, it was just a lot. I know.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get to, because we met seventh grade.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this time together, but it got cut short because you decided to finish high school in 3 years instead of 4. And I remember you were a little baby out in the real world in college. And I remember you'd come home on breaks. And I remember I was a senior in high school, what's going on? Tell me about it. And I remember be it sucks. I hate it. I feel horrible. My mental health is horrible. And then I remember you vanished for a year and a half. No one heard anything from you. And then out of nowhere, you're graduating, going to grad school, and about to finish your master's. And I was like, oh my God, who is this?
Yeah, what happened, literally. Yes. No, it was a lot, but I look back on it and I kind of don't remember a lot of it because of the experience that I had so quickly. I was just kind of, and I see it as the title of your podcast, not ready to grow up. I was forced to grow up. And that was something that I'm experiencing now as a reflection of why did I do that? Obviously there were other reasons as to why I needed to do so and why I had to make those choices and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was very difficult at the time, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're going to experience so much failure in your life, and you need to understand that failure is only going to help you grow if you let it. You know what I mean?
I remember growing up a lot, especially in the town we lived in. There was always a lot of drama, a lot of conflict, a lot of issues.
In our town, I don't know.
But I remember you and I, we never got into that with each other ever. We were always very respectful. And I think because we both knew each other's situations and things going on in our personal lives, we were able to respect that. I remember to that point because we were in AP environmental science, and I remember when you broke the news to me that you were leaving that year. I never really questioned it or asked why. I know a lot of people had a lot of comments about it, a lot of opinions. There were so many rumors going around school about why you were leaving so early. I never really questioned it. I kind of just had a feeling that you needed to get out of there, however soon it would be, when or where it would be done, but you made it work and you did it as fast as you could. And I never asked you why, because I was in time, I will know.
Mm-hmm.
So the question, why?
So the question why, during that time, when I had originally moved to Maryland, I was there from a very different perspective and coming from Florida. That was so culture shock for me. Being from a very diverse area and moving to a place where if you're brunette, you literally stick out. And that was oh, okay. And at the time, my dad was moving a lot of different jobs. And what a lot of people didn't know about me in high school was that my dad was living in South America, and my parents are still together. It wasn't anything like, parental problems, but it was just genuinely the situation that he was working at with his job. So he lived in South America for 3 years, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So he would spend 18 days in the desert in Santiago, and then he would fly for 2 days straight and then come back for about a week. So like 10-ish days, and then do it all over again every month for 3 years. And at the time, I was 14 years old when he had gotten this project, and we knew that he didn't want to continue doing that. And at the time, being so young, I had seen this opportunity to finish early. And it's such a weird story. Like, to finish early for me meant that I could give my parents the opportunity to move wherever they wanted, instead of having the drag of figuring out where I need to go to school next for 1 year. It just didn't make sense. There was no reason to stick around in a brand new place for your senior year of high school. No, that's not happening. So easier said than done. I remember being 15 years old and telling everyone at the lunch table, oh, I'm going to graduate at 16. I'm going to get my degree at 20, and I'm going to do my thing. And that's going to be it. And looking back, I had no idea what the hell that meant. Not even a clue. And I'm very thankful that I was able to complete that off my checklist, but it truly felt more like I wanted to prove it to everybody else that I could do it, more than I needed to do that for myself. So that's kind of the reflection I'm currently working with right now, and working on that inner child right now, and focusing on how I can heal that portion of myself that really never had the chance to continue to be that young. Like, now I have to pay rent and bills, and I have cats, and you don't get to go backwards, and it's upsetting when you realize, like, in high school, all you want to do is grow up, and then now you're getting older and all you want to do is go back, and you're like, so it's kind of where I'm at right now. So that's about a little bit about why.
Because you didn't get the extra year like we all did of high school to say goodbye to our like childhood, our small town. And though, yes, at 18, they truck you off to college and expect you to be an adult, but you're still kind of sheltered the same way up until they hand you that diploma and you are in the real world. You had to do it all in like less than like 6 months. What essentially was supposed to be like your junior year became half junior, half senior year, and you did it all in that 6-month time frame. Like, and you did all the things that most like high school girls look forward to, and then they're like, and then like I leave for school in a couple months, it's not a big deal. Like, you were like, no, I got to do prom in a week, graduation in 2 weeks, and it's like I got to move to a new state for school in like 3 weeks. I have to do this, do that, and you're only 16. Like, you didn't get a chance to breathe, but you're also making the decision for your parents, like a very an adult decision, to be like, I don't want you guys to feel like you have to drag me again to another place and another for me to start over all over again, and then leave again a year later for school. So you and it's like you said, your inner child wants to like live out that extra like year they didn't get to have. As insane. And like we always talk about, like, not ready to grow up, what that means to each one of us. Like, we all had to experience something differently to like that made us grow up way too fast than we wanted to. And it might be something small and it might be something big like your situation, but each part of it mattered to us for a specific reason. And how do we fulfill that, that person inside of us that's not ready to grow up but has to. It's I'm just like, I remember it happened. Everyone was like, I had the rumor mill in high school was insane. I remember you were dating somebody at the time and everyone thought you wanted to graduate to be with them. And I was just like, what? Because I knew you. I was like, just because she likes him, she doesn't like him that much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you think I'm gonna follow a man anywhere? Listen, I don't care what age I am. That's not gonna happen. Okay, that's never gonna happen.
And then like some people were like, oh, it's because all her friends graduated, so she has no reason to stay. I was like, I'm her friend. Like, she's not staying for me, obviously. Like,
And truly, I didn't ever care to explain it to them because I knew that that wasn't going to be a part of my life anymore. And even the people I was close with in high school, looking back, I feel horrible to know that I wasn't able to connect with them the way I wish I did, and continue to connect with them. Because once I went to college, I mean, and I'm saying this in the perspective of my 16-year-old self, like on Snapchat, thinking I'm cool. I wasn't. But I felt I was out. You know, this is what you're supposed to be doing in college. This was the things you're supposed to be experiencing. And I almost wanted to show it off that I was finally doing it, you know, and instead I'm digging myself into a hole so deep that I didn't realize what kind of consequences that was going to mean for me, even 6 months later. Like, not everybody knows about my first semester at school. Like, they don't. And it was horrible. I mean, it was not a good idea. Let me just preface that in this podcast, this was not a good idea, but it was the choices I made, and it brought me to who I am today. Sorry, my cat. But it has shaped me to be the person I am today, and I'm thankful for the experience. I just don't recommend it for everyone at all.
Because like you made this decision at 15 and then left at 16, and I mean, you were already a baby amongst our own like age group at the time because your birthday was so much after everybody else. Like everyone else would already be like 16 and you still had a couple more months. So like it was just freshly 16, like in college. And they had to give you everything that most of us would learn in 4 years that they're supposed to prepare us with, which I learned they did not prepare us with. Do you know, I had this conversation last week. Do you know how inaccurate high school history classes are?
Extremely. The fact that I'm literally living in DC and still don't know anything about the government, it's hilarious.
I was like, in grad school, I'm just now learning the correct history. I'm like, grad school.
Oh yeah.
But they give you these tools that they expect you to use in college, and then you're like 16, you're like, this is not what I was told. This is not as fun as they made it out to be, and not exciting, and I'm putting up a front because I want everyone to think it's cool and it's fun. Because I remember you'd come home for breaks and you would be like, it's miserable. Like I remember you would have, because your parents had moved already, but where we lived was closer to, well, not closer, but like a couple hours from West Virginia, so you were able to get to us. So I remember someone would come get you, or you would join somebody's drive down. You get dropped off and you would stay with like whichever like friend was still in the area for a couple days, and then you would fly to Florida to see your parents. Like, and I'm pretty sure like the nearest airport to West Virginia is like pretty far too. So it was just easier for you to come
like
to us.
Smaller ones that I can go to in Florida now, but at the time it was Pittsburgh, which is about an hour and a half. And if anyone listening to this lives in West Virginia in the, university area, you know how horrible that drive is to Pittsburgh. It is just a straight shot, but so out the way. You can't Uber. You can't. It's like a $250 Uber. It's impossible. So you have to beg somebody to drive you every single time. So I would hop on a Greyhound, or I would get a ride home or something like that. And at the time I missed Maryland. I mean, it kind of grosses me out now that I missed it so much in comparison to my freshman year, because I just was deprived of that feeling. And it was such a reverse FOMO, because I feel, for example, you might have been looking at me at school and been like, wow, I wish I could get out of here. And I was looking at you guys and being like, I wish I could have stayed. And it's just such a weird feeling that I was having. I was like, how does what therapist can explain this to me, you know?
But that first year, a lot of people didn't know about it. And I remember like when I said earlier, like you vanished for a little bit, like no one knew anything that was going on, no one heard from you. And then you were all of a sudden back and you're like, I'm graduating. I'm in grad school. I'm getting my master's. I remember just sitting there like wow. And I think the first time it hit me that like I knew you, but I didn't know you like I thought I did. And I was amazed by it was you posted, it was because your graduation got moved because of COVID. So it was like a year later, you posted this and you're like, not only am I graduating with my bachelor's, I'm graduating with my master's, but compared to who I was at 16, you said that you were practically failing out of school. And now here you are with 2 degrees and like ready to take on the world. I just remember thinking like they you could have fooled me because yeah, you came home and you were like, it's horrible, I hate it. But you made it look like it was so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But like a 16-year-old struggling, what like no one understands what resource. And for a lot of people who aren't listening, I learned this the hard way in undergrad. When you step foot on a college campus, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're automatically considered like the adult there. So they don't talk to your parents, they don't ask your parents. A lot of it they need your consent to do. So once you step foot, whether you're a college visiting or a current student, you're like 100% fully like they think you're a 30-year-old that can make all choices.
I mean, you're responsible for yourself. Nobody in this world will ever be responsible for you but you. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care how beautiful of a connection you have with your parents. I don't care how many siblings you have. It is you and solely you, and that's it. No one's going to help you through that. I'm sorry. Maybe, with the support of everybody else, but they will not physically do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you hearing that, I almost teared up because I was like it was terrible. Like it was terrible for me. And I talk to people I know now, and they don't know what I had to go through to get to this point, And I mean, to be fully transparent, I almost flunked out of college fully. I mean, the first semester, literally flunked. Second semester, I tried so hard to pick myself up from what I did first semester, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Was not enough. I mean, when I tell you it wasn't enough, not that I flunked, but that my GPA was still so low, they wanted to kick me out. I mean, just imagine getting kicked out of West Virginia University. That's something. Now that's something, which is also a nice fun fact. 25% of the freshman class leaves after the first semester. It's a fact. It's a statistic in West Virginia. So at that point, May 2017, I had to write a letter of appeal to the academic office and beg them to give me a chance to make up any credits that I had failed over summer. Now, at this point of my life, I had failed 4 college classes. That's a lot of money. Just so you know, that's a lot of money. I did have a scholarship at the time that provided me really, really good benefits, but I was at risk of losing that. And I took summer classes every single semester until I graduated with my master's. And when I say I didn't take 1, I didn't take 2, I took a full college semester, 12 credits every single summer just to get myself back up, because I had dug myself in a hole so deep that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how else I could graduate in these 4 years. And aside from that perspective of needing to do that so hard, like time goes by, COVID hits, and you realize that 4 years doesn't matter anymore. Like it can be 4.5, it can be 5, it can be 6, it can be 10, it can be 12. My dad graduated with his bachelor's in 12 years. I mean, that it doesn't matter how long it takes you, because what you're doing for yourself and your education is the most important thing for you and you only. Does not matter the timeline at all whatsoever. And I wish I knew that And COVID taught me that for sure, because after all that pressure of not wanting to fail and the fear of failure from my freshman year, a global pandemic will stop anything. I
Yeah.
think we all know that now.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to reflect and see how much I've grown and been able to have a 4.0 during May 2020 semester. But did it really matter? You know,
Yeah.
it to me, I could have been calmer. I could have focused on what it was like to have anxiety. I could have focused on what it was like to feel insecurity and understand what I wanted to be when I grew up versus having to take all these college credits and making sure I didn't fail and loading myself so much to the point that I did not want to fail in the eyes of others.
Yeah.
That mentality was so dangerous for me, and being having this like peanut gallery of people watching me, like, oh, you went to college at 16. Well, are you gonna fail yet? I mean, you heard the rumors. You
Yeah.
heard the rumors. They
I,
were mean. They were really mean. They stick with me to this day. I took it as willpower to do better, but also I took it too far because I didn't care about anything else besides school and what it needed to be, which is beautiful. I got them. Cool. That's that's all they do. If you're listening to this, I'm pointing at my diplomas. If you're watching this, you see it. So I repeated it. All they're doing is collecting dust. Okay. That's not going to help you in your future. You know, it's beautiful to want an education. It's beautiful to work for yourself. But if you don't focus on what's inside, you're never really going to be educating yourself. I'm sorry. I don't care what you learn in a lecture. You're not. And if your professor's really that great, send them my way. I mean, that's beautiful, but tell me how much you remember from college. You know what I mean?
I'm like this at 16 in college, like people aren't gonna like try to give you the tools to help you. They'd be like, oh, a 16-year-old's here. Oh, look at that. She's not gonna take it so seriously. And but also remembering that like in that small town we lived in, like where we went to high school, like you said, having brown hair, you stuck out like a sore thumb. Like we were conditioned to believe a certain thing. Like, and I mentioned earlier before we started recording that, you know, people gave me so much grief for going to a small town local college in our area. But I remember going into it, I already had a negative mindset going in because like I'm going to be in a local college, like a small town college. I'm not going to know anyone. I'm never going to have the college experience. I mean, I also commuted. So there was a piece of that college experience that I didn't have already. But then going into it and realizing it was nothing as I expected and still having that experience, even though it was different. But then also on the flip side of it, you know, when you're in college, you can't always pick up the phone and call your parents every time something bad happens. Like you have to be an adult and do it yourself. You have to reach out to these people and do it to yourself. And I remember during the pandemic and like was it May 2020? That was the end of my junior year. And I had done all the gen eds. I had like 4 classes left for my major. I finished my minor and I still didn't have enough to graduate. And I was given such a hard time because of in my head, because I already going to a small private college, there's a mindset there that's different than the town itself. And because it's such a small private college, everyone knows each other. It's all based on how smart you are. And so in my head, if I do an extra year, they're going to think I'm stupid. If I do an extra year, I'm going to be the laugh of the school. And I just forced myself that whole summer to take classes and catch up. I added another minor because I was like, I need to not look like I couldn't graduate on time because I was missing credits. I did that so I could walk. But then I was like, why did I do that? Like it didn't matter.
Yeah. And let me just add